Hi, okay, so we're here to show you how to replace a screen in a Dell Inspiron 6400 laptop. First off, you start by taking off these little tiny rubber stoppers off each of the holes on top of the screws. It is possible that you might have some of them missing, as they easily do come off. But there is 6 screws around the screen, and you take those rubber stoppers off. Now we start with the screws. Remove all the screws that are surrounding the screen. Okay, so once you have all the screws removed, what we have to do next is remove this plastic bezel that goes around the screen. Now you have to be really careful with it because it's very easy to crack these plastic bezels, and then you have to probably try to search eBay or something for one of them, since these are older laptops and sometimes it's not easy to find, or they're fairly expensive. So you have to be very careful to get the clips unclipped without snapping it. And where it gets a little bit troublesome is on the side here where it gets a little tighter. What you can do is you can get one of those little plastic wedges and you can try to wedge it that way. And what I'm going to do, or a little tiny screwdriver, just go at the side here and just kind of lift the bezel up so you unclip the clips without breaking them if possible. And that way you don't have a crack in the bezel. So all the way down the sides and then the bottom as well. Just kind of pull down and then wedge it out. There's a little piece here. And like that. Okay. So next thing is next. You basically just have to take this screen out. So you can start with the side screws here. There should be 1, 2, 3, 4 screws on each side of the screen. They're little tiny things, so be careful not to lose them. So go down each side and take those little tiny screws out. Okay, so once you have those screws out, let me see here. You should be able to just grab the top here and it'll come apart. You can lay it down like this. Here, let me make it so you can see here. You can lay it down like this. And then you'll see the connector to the screen right up here. And then you'll see it connected to the inverter at the bottom of the screen as well, and then it goes down into the laptop. So what you want to do is there's 2 clips here that you squeeze together just at the side of this connector, and you gently wedge it out holding these 2 clips, and then just grab this little purple connector, our little flap, and just gently wedge it out of the inverter. Now if your replacement screen doesn't come with the inverter, which is this thing right here, then you're going to have to get that inverter out and put it onto the new screen, which is easy, but you do have to remove this tiny screw here, and then you have to wedge it out of here, and you have to unplug this cable from the screen to the inverter. And this little clip thing that it's attached to the screen with can be a little tricky to wedge it out, but you can do it. Just be sure not to bend the inverter too hard so you don't damage any of the chips on the inverter board. Okay, so next is skip the new screen out. So you have your brand new screen, and this one we ordered from screencountry.com. So you have the brand new screen. It looks exactly the same. You want to be sure when you order the screens that you, best thing to do instead of look up the model of the laptop is to look at the model number on the back of the screen, and then look it up that way. That way you can be sure that you get either a replacement screen or the exact same screen for the laptop. Especially with these Dells, I noticed that resolution really does make a difference in whether the screen stays dark or not. What you want to do is you want to, just like you just took out the inverter, you want to plug this cable into the inverter that's in this screen, and you want to squeeze these little clips. And you got to be careful because it's really fragile. You want to put this clip back into the little area where we took it out from. So you just gently push it back in. Make sure it's nice and snug in there, because if not, it'll come loose and then you might have problems with the picture on the screen. So you want to make sure that these are all nice and snug. Gently, of course. And then lift her back up. Now you want to take the stickers off the side if there's a protective thing on your screen. It is nice to keep it on to keep the screen protected, but you got to take it off the sides, or else once you screw the screen back on, you're going to have these stickers underneath the sides, and then you'll have problems getting it off. So slide the screen in just like we took it out. Good fit. And now our next step is to put these little tiny screws back into the sides of the laptop screen. Now you gotta line it up. Sometimes it's hard and you have to play with it a little bit. Let's see here. So you may have to put your finger at the bottom of the screen and just kind of lift up and get the screw hole lined in there so that you can put the screw in. And you'll do that all the way down. It's definitely a little easier taking them out than it is putting them back in, but once you get it lined up, it should be straightforward all the way down the screen. So okay, now on to the next side. Just a little lift on it, and then it gets lined up with the screw hole. It's definitely easier having little tiny fingers when you're doing this, but if you don't, then you will have to make do. Okay, so once you have all the screws in there, just gotta loosen this one a tiny bit here. Get that top one in, and then we'll be good to go. Make sure they're all nice and snug. Not too snug though. Alright. So once you have all those screws installed there, our next step is to put this plastic bezel back on. First you got to start with the bottom side where you have this little piece that juts out. Got to kind of wedge it in there. The easiest thing I found to do is just to push the screen all the way down flat. And then wedge it in there. straight in there. Alright, so we got that in there. Lift it back up. And now you just pretty much have to push on all parts all around the bezel until you hear all the little clicks of the clips clipping back together. And then once you're done that, you can close it and you can flip it over. You can see if there's any open marks here. And then just push them so that they clip back together. And there we go. So here we are, almost done. We have to put all 6 screws back in around the LCD bezel. Get that top one in and then we'll be good to go. Just make sure they're all nice and snug. Not too snug though. Alright. So once you have all those screws installed there, our next step is to put this plastic bezel back on. First you got to start with the bottom side where you have this little piece that juts out. Got to kind of wedge it in there. The easiest thing I found to do is just to push the screen all the way down flat. And then wedge it in there. Straight in there. Alright, so we got that in there. Lift it back up. And now you just pretty much have to push on all parts all around the bezel until you hear all the little clicks of the clips clipping back together. And then once you're done that, you can close it and you can flip it over. You can see if there's any open marks here. And then just push them so that they clip back together. And there we go. So here we are, almost done. We have to put all 6 screws back in around the LCD bezel. Okay, so we're getting all the screws all the way around. You gotta make sure they're snug. And then after you're done putting all the screws back, you gotta put your little rubber stoppers back. It's pretty much just a cosmetic thing. These little rubber stoppers, they're very easy to lose and it's kind of a pain, but stick all your rubber stoppers back in the little places. Okay, and there we go. And next step here is to test out the screen. Luckily this one is a very simple screen to replace. Compared to a lot of the laptops that are out there, it definitely gets a lot more complicated. So here, let's plug it in. And turn it on. Voila! Done. Complete. Now you've successfully replaced a screen on a Dell Inspiron 6400. And I hope that this video was helpful for you guys. Thanks.